Kern County, an area with a long history of farming that's been passed down generation to generation. We'll talk to leaders in the agriculture industry about new technologies, what's happening around Kern County in the farming industry, and other topics to keep everybody informed. This is Farm Country. I want to talk about the food section here, Steve, because this is a hidden gem of Bakersfield. I'm talking, you want to talk about a good lunch, they have it here. I'm going to just kind of pan down here. Can I do that? Let me do that here. Because they have mixed berry turnovers, right? Are these all made here? Are most of these made here? They are. They're all made here. Man, look at it. Now these, I'm telling you right now, these chicken pot pies here are awesome. They are so good. Blueberry barbecue. The mixed fruit is good. Spicy beef. I'm just looking here. The pot roast. What's the favorite? What is everybody's favorite?
My favorite's the blueberry pulled pork.
Blueberry?
It's amazing.
Wow. Is that a house recipe here?
Yes.
It is. And what is that right there, back there? Is that macaroni and cheese, right? That is good. I'm telling you, if you have a chance and you're in Bakersfield, you want to come out here if you have not tried this, because this is a hidden gem. It's all fresh, and a lot of the ingredients they have that are grown here right on the farm, and it's all made right here. They're not, you know, breaking it out of a freezer that's been shipped here. They're making it. So it's really fresh and it's really good. They got beverages and they have fudge over there that's really good. A lot of different varieties. I'm going to walk over there real quick. A lot of different varieties of fudge you can see here. Sorry.
And there's tons. This one's my favorite. This one's chocolate peanut butter.
So good, man.
With caramel.
That's good stuff right there.
You know, and the story behind calling it the Cal Oak Orchard Kitchen is that during the Great Grapes of Wrath, the Dust Bowl, that 1 million people came from Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Texas and came through the pass here into Bakersfield, and that Weed Patch Labor Camp was where Grapes of Wrath was written. That's where you know, a lot of famous country western music artists had their beginning, and that they would plant a little orchard garden and then take that and put it into their fry pies. And so the concept of calling them Okie fry pies is because it was a historic thing when the people from Oklahoma, Arkansas, Texas came through the valley, that they would sit down, they'd have some flowers, some fruit, put together a turnover, and then fry it or bake it in a Dutch oven, and that it is a traditional recipe, and that it is part of the history of the area.
Yeah, I love it.
As an example, we planted 75,000 strawberry plants for school tours, and the school tours ended immediately, and so we took those strawberries, and that kicked off our farmers market season.
Oh, wow, okay, that makes
And
sense.
so instead of having kids come pick strawberries on the farm, we took the strawberries to the Southland, and we found that the quality of our strawberries, when you don't have school kids going through, was higher than the quality of many of the coastal strawberry growers.
Yeah.
And so we got a following on the strawberries that then led into when our blueberries and blackberries started, and our cherries. And so it helped pull through our presence in the farmers markets for the season.
Yeah. So here it is, right? So this is where they do the picking, and then they'll... Really? Can I try one?
Absolutely.
Let me try one here. And these are these are picked recently, right?
Just now.
Just now.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so good.
You look, we have in here some of my son's grapefruit. These are white chipotes, and he's got lemon guavas, and at the other end a number of unusual and rare fruit.
Yeah.
We actually have a white blackberry here.
You do?
That right now it's struggling to have size, so we're not sure.
Does it taste just like a...
It tastes more like a wild blackberry.
Okay. What's the difference between a wild and a regular blackberry, actually?
Well, when you used to go out in the woods and you see blackberries growing, those are called the Himalayan. I don't think they're Himalayan. I think they're native blackberries that grew up in Oregon, Washington, California. Mm-hmm. And so I think it came from wild stock, but it was a white mutation on the fruit. Here, these are our tart cherries. These are pie cherries.
Tart cherries.
So they're really not sweet, but when you add sweetener to it, and you make tarts or pies or pie fillings, This is what you think of. We have Montmorency and
I never knew that.
3 other varieties darker than Montmorency varieties.
I never knew that a cherry pie was more of a tartar cherry.
Absolutely.
It is. I learned something today. All right.
So these are tart cherries. They're really quite popular with the chefs. That the difficulty is that you have to pit them, and that by the time you're done, that you have to take the pits out and prepare it, and that it is a labor of love. But if you're putting it into sauces and whatnot, that it really is quite popular. This is an organic farm, and so one of the things we struggle with is weeds.
Yep.
That it's not as efficient as using herbicides. That it's part of the
people at the farmers market really like that, though, right? They seem to gravitate towards organic.
I think that when we converted this farm to organic, that it really had a positive impact on the popularity of our products and the prices we were willing to charge.
Yeah.
And now we've gone away from scales altogether, and so we're selling them in baskets instead.
Wow.
And that is like
Is it cost effective to? I know there's a little bit of loss, right, that you'll get from organic, possibly with bugs and stuff, or maybe not. Is it? But you might save though on pesticides and stuff, right? So is there a balance to it?
You actually, as an example, these are our organic cherries.
Okay.
And that with cherries, that there was an introduced cherry fruit fly that sticks an egg into the cherry, and then you get a maggot inside. And the tolerance is 0. You can't have 1 in 100 cherries with a maggot in it. And so there are very few tools that are organic to control fruit flies. But there are tools available, but they are, 10 times more expensive. And so we went on a comprehensive strategy to keep the fruit flies out of here. And unfortunately, we failed. And so on this 2 acres that we were unable to pick it, if you look on the ground, you can see the cherries that had to drop on the ground because...
Does that mean you can't harvest any of them?
Couldn't harvest any of them because...
Really? Because you never know, right?
You can't tell by looking at the cherry if there's a maggot in it. And so we couldn't sort it out, and so we had to walk from... It's a small block of cherries, 2 acres, but there's just, at this time, there were no organic cherries in the world, and we could have...
Well, how do you rebound from that? Like, how do you make it so we can harvest?
Well, we were using a organic material that was supposed to be used every 7 days. Next year we'll go every 4. And that it's derived from a soil microbe, so it's truly an organic material. It doesn't affect humans in any way, but when you go with an organic program, you still have diseases and funguses, and you still have insects and pests, and that there are a lot of tools that we use in order to farm organically. But there's no such thing as the one alternative is called biodynamic, and that is where you just let the wildlife have their way with it, and whatever you pick is your share. And that sometimes that works in growing wine grapes and having pigs and chickens and cows in the field, controlling the grasses and the weeds, and but that if you truly want no sprays whatsoever, then you go with a biodynamic model. And there are some things that we grow, figs, persimmons, avocados here, that don't get any sprays whatsoever. But there are others, and in our blueberries and blackberries, we don't seem to get the fruit flies. But specifically on the cherries, that we can grow organic cherries, and we have, but we've had 2 years out of the last 8 or 10 years where there was a bust, and that it just makes you double down next year and just say, I don't want that to happen again.
Steve, I give you credit, because a lot of people will say, Steve, you can put a little bug spray on these and no one will notice any. But you're sticking to it that, hey, we're committing to this, and we're gonna figure out a solution that goes with our game plan. We're not going to cheat the system here. Right?
With certification, there's third-party auditors that come out, and they take soil samples, they take tissue samples.
Oh, really?
And they follow up. And
so if you say you're organic, you better be organic.
You better be organic, and if you get caught, then you get kicked out for organic for 3 years. And it is a sigh in the farmers markets or anywhere else. You get bad publicity that you just don't want.
Right.
That a lot of people in the market say no sprays, but we're not certified organic, and that quite frankly, that that there are some essential sprays when you're growing berries, strawberries, whatnot. That, we get by, on our blackberries with no sprays. We get by on our blueberries with no sprays. We don't get by with our cherries on no sprays.
Yeah, very interesting. We take a look down.
Yeah. I got you over here just to see.
I've seen things too, like is it is it real that organic fruit is better for you, or is there any value to it? I've heard mixed messages on that.
I think that the whole key of organics is improving soil organic matter, improving the health of the soil, to have stronger trees so they're better able to resist pest pressures.
I've got to look at these things, man. Look at these, man, these are nice right here. Wow, those are big.
So again, our fruit starts on that side in April.
Whoa.
Finish on the other side in October, and so we're mid-season on our nectarines.
These aren't ready yet?
These are right there. Usually the way you can tell is if you see some on the ground. Because we pick today and sell it tomorrow, so we're picking ripe.
Yeah.
It means that you lose a percentage just for falling on the ground.
And I asked this question because I have one of these in my, that is not this big, but I have one of these trees. How do you know when it's time to pick on that?
Usually what you look for is if you see that background color there, it's still just, it's yellow, but just a teeny little bit of green.
Yeah.
If you've got a completely yellow background, if you don't see green on the stem end, then you're probably close to ready.
Okay, so you don't want to see
the green.
The green. You want to see yellow.
You want to see this yellow,
okay.
Not this green.
Okay, so once the green's gone, it's ready to go.
It's ready to go, yeah.
Man,
we also have a tool called a pedrometer.
Yeah.
And you just cut it off and it pops pressure on it and it determines when it is the right texture.
Yeah.
And if you're going to ship fruit to New York, then you would want it firmer.
Because you want a little bit, you want it to be able to last a little bit, right?
The worst thing in the fruit industry is what you throw away. But that if you want to send it to LA and have somebody eat it tomorrow, then you want softer fruit.
Okay.
And that when you are too far gone, then all of a sudden you got thumbprints on the fruit when you pick it, and then you missed it.
Yeah, you missed it. Yeah.
We've gotten better and better at that sweet line on what's ready. So in here, every other row is yellow flesh, white flesh, and so this is a white flesh nectarine. This row that's finished is yellow flesh.
Is the yellow sweeter than the white, or is it?
The white has lower acid,
okay,
and so it tastes sweeter.
Okay.
And so for me, when I was growing up, I just loved white Babcock peaches, and so I put half and half in. But in the public want 3-to-1 yellow peaches and yellow nectarines to white nectarines, even though the white ones are sweeter.
I feel like the yellow ones are usually softer. Is that wrong? Or is
no, they both have the same texture.
They do. Okay. Maybe I'm just, like you said, I'm just getting it different. You know, these are really big, though, man. I mean, compared to like what I'm seeing in this. Maybe I'm wrong here, but I feel like these are really good
nice
size.
Fruit. That we went on a farm tour in New Zealand, and that we learned a lot from apple growers who were counting how many trees they have per acre, looking at how many boxes they wanted per acre, and they started setting up the tree on how many pieces of fruit that you have to have on the tree in order to get, get your fruit count. And when we were doing that, the guy that drove the tractor was the one that was tipping the fruit, and he didn't want fruit to hit his tractor, and so there was only room for one nectarine on each hanger.
Okay.
And so we came back and said we need these to be 18 inches long and shoot for 1, 2, 3 pieces of fruit on it.
Wow.
And then if you've got all the fruit on here, then you're shooting for 300 pieces of fruit on the tree, and that our production tripled.
Yeah.
And our quality remained the same. So
yeah, really interesting.
So this nectarines, the next block is peaches. Then below that is our pumpkin patch that is just about to be planted, or our corn maze. And then below that is our apples and pears. So in here, it starts with apricots and plums and pluots and cherums, and then it becomes cherries, nectarines, peaches, corn maze, and then citrus.
Right. Very good. You know what? I gotta give you credit here because I think that you are educating people in farming. You know, maybe people don't get that, and I think they come here, and after just interviewing, I could tell you have a passion for this.
Yes.
Like you enjoy it. Right? Am I wrong here? That you actually, I mean, some people don't enjoy what they do. I can tell by talking to you, you actually enjoy this.
All my life, this is what I wanted to do, and that I was able to get an education in agriculture and use that in order to eventually become a farmer. It took me, 25 years working for other employers to become independent in this business. But I think that that's not uncommon in people in agriculture. To survive in this industry, that the first thing you have to have is a passion for what you're doing, because there's no more stressful industry than agriculture, because Mother Nature can just pull the rug out from under you anytime.
Right.
And some years you have a blank. I think the other thing that you see is perseverance. The farmers that are in business today have persevered difficult times and are persistent to keep stay in the game. And the farmer's motto is, there's always next year. Next year will be better.
Yeah.
And I think that at these times right now, that when you're in a Farm Bureau group meeting or talking to other people in agriculture, that even though things are difficult, that I think that we're faring as well or better than anybody else, or particularly any businesses.
Yeah.
The thing that we saw, when the COVID hit, was that certain aspects of agriculture were favored better than others. If you were a flower grower, the flower shops closed, the flower distributors closed, the weddings, the funerals, all group get-togethers ended, and the flower business overnight was no more. People, especially smaller growers growing vegetables, were selling to high-end restaurants, and a handful of restaurants would take up 60-70% of their produce, or 100%. And that when the restaurants closed, they had to reinvent themselves with CSA boxes to sell, and even the restaurants had to reinvent themselves to become grocery stores to try to do something that would pay the rent that they still have to make. And so, flowers and vegetables did not fare as well in the farmers markets. The fruit growers fared better because more of the vegetables were used in restaurants, whereas the fruit is not as a big a percentage of fruit, although our blueberries and blackberries and even our cherries go into a lot of restaurant menus. It was really the greens, the soft leafy greens. People went more towards potatoes and carrots and onions and garlic. Those commodities did well. Beef got murdered because that's where a lot of the premier cuts are. So cattle, the milk industry got hammered by kids not going to school and all the milk that goes in school programs.
Right.
Now all of a sudden there's a resurgent in craft cheeses, and so cheese prices are off. We're seeing these big yo-yo zooms that people wouldn't have ever expected to happen when you have such a disruption as this.
Right.
But that the farmers that are in business are, most that I know are surviving. And part of that has to do with the support that they're getting from their communities, and that's part of the support that they've been giving to their communities too.
Yeah. One of my favorite things, and my kids' favorite things by far, is the Halloween experience that you have here, right? And you guys used to have a Christmas too, but the Halloween thing is, I would say, this is probably one of the premier events to go to in Kern County. Did you envision that? How did that come to be? Like, how did you decide that, hey, we can really put together a Halloween deal here, pumpkin patch that people will enjoy?
Well, we thought we had a good location for people to come to get out and enjoy fall activities. And when we started, what we thought that it was all about selling pumpkins. And that we've evolved to the point now where the pumpkin is free with admission.
Yeah.
And so you come and enjoy the activities, select a pumpkin, and everybody in the family brings a pumpkin home.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun, but now the pumpkins are less than 8% of what we do in October. And really what it is it's number one is people coming onto the farm admission. Mm-hmm. Number two is people eating food while they're here on the farm. Yeah. And number three, in front we have a patch with, if you want to get giant pumpkins, we've got the best collection of 200-pound pumpkins. Yeah. But it's kind of morphed that with COVID-19, everybody's in my company right now is saying, and within the industry is, do we do it? What's going to happen? And the problem is that people are want to get back to nostalgia. They want to get outdoor activities. They want to do things with their family that is more tradition. Things have been disrupted for so long, and there's not a lot of options. Restaurants are going to have social distancing. Theaters are going to have their challenges, but it's really hard to forecast how many pumpkins you need to grow, because you don't know, is it going to be 50% of last year, 75% of last year, or is it going to be more than 100% of last year? Because what we've seen in the past was back in 2008 when the towers went down and the recession hit, we saw our attendance increase, and it was because people stopped doing long trips, expensive trips, and tried to do things that were more affordable and closer to home. And so we're hoping that we'll get the support of the community with our October. We are going to have our October festival here. It's going to start October 2nd and go through the whole month of October. We don't anticipate any school tours because we don't think schools will be fully, the schools are not going to have, they're going to be every other day. So half the students will be at home. And so we think there'll be mothers with children at home, 3 days a week. And so we might see more family units during the week. But we we were doing maybe 20,000 school kids a year
Wow.
coming onto the farm, and that has gone to zero. That what created our opportunity to sell strawberries in the farmers markets, because we planted those for the kids.
Yeah.
And so we're anticipating that the other 40,000 people that come to the farm in October will still come. And that we're going to be, not open for business, but hoping for business.
I like that. Hoping for business. I love that. I love it.
If we do it, they will come. Is what we're hoping. That, but there's a lot more restraints. It's going to require higher staffing because we have to keep everything clean and sanitary and safe for distancing and surfaces. We have to watch areas where people congregate.
Yep.
So you got to eliminate lines, and we're exploring what those options are going to look like.
Well, man, we are out here south of Murray Farms, right? About how far? A couple miles?
3 miles down the road.
3 miles down the road. And you say this is the Cherry District?
This is Kern County Cherry District, that from Bear Mountain Boulevard to the south to Highway 58 is the majority of the cherries that are grown in Kern County.
It is. Okay.
And this is a new concept in cherry production where we eliminate ladders altogether. It's called a pedestrian orchard. And so you do all your work from the ground. And so when there's fruit on the trees, what you do is you bend the branch down and you pick it up in the basket.
Whoa.
And it,
is it like softer than a normal tree would be or something?
you have a lot more canes. You grow more canes instead of trunks.
Whoa.
And when you do your pruning, you'll come in and take out maybe 1 or 2 of the biggest canes, and then they'll throw 2 new ones, and then you every 7 years renew your wood.
That's super smart, right?
Yeah.
And safer.
And safer, and that higher quality fruit grows on the spurs that are that grow upright.
Ah, that's incredible.
As opposed to this side, which is a traditional tree.
Yeah.
And the 2 things that are difficult in cherry orchards, one is you need to continue to renew your wood. And so we have to have people come in with loppers and make decisions on what to cut and what to leave.
Okay.
And then all that work is done on ladders, and to pick the fruit is all done on ladders. And you tend to pick the ripe fruit on the top, and you pick your way to the ground, and as you go down, it gets greener. And so you end up with a basket that has, a mix of green and ripe fruit. And so it's a lot easier to color pick when you can pick it from the ground as well.
Wow. Fascinating.
And that
Are the watering systems, have they always been like that?
we irrigate on the ground with a double line drip. And so we're 95% efficient in our irrigation.
Oh, okay.
But we use the overhead sprinklers this time of year to keep the trees cool.
Yeah.
So we don't get more fruit defects next year. The flowers are differentiating, and so next year's fruit is forming right now, and so if we keep the trees cooler, we have less doubles and spurs and defects, sutures.
It's interesting you say. I know that some of that technology is really advancing the underground watering, especially in Kern County, right? Because the temperatures, the farmers have really, because water, sometimes water's good, sometimes it's not, right? And so the idea that you can use less water and you're more efficient with it, you're not losing it, and it's obviously becoming an important thing for people here in Kern County.
We just got a USDA grant that's going to be installed this next week, where all of our fields will have monitoring stations on our computers, on our phones, to where we can see exactly what's going on in the water in the ground, and we believe it will take us to exactly the amount of water that it takes to minimum amount to grow these trees. So.
Stay tuned for our final part in our interview with Steve Murray from Murray Farms. In the next episode, we go back and look at a Native American historical landmark in Kern County.